You should just hand over the money, Linda. You don't even know how to manage it anymore. That's what my stepdaughter, Amanda, said to me at the dinner table, her voice calm, but her words cutting like glass. For a moment, I didn't even respond. I just stared at her across the table, my fork frozen midair. My own husband, Mark, cleared his throat but didn't say a word. That silence hurt more than her insult. I'm 47. I worked 30 years as a nurse. Double shifts, endless night duties, aching legs to save $58,000 for my retirement. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And now, this 24-year-old was sitting in my kitchen, telling me I should hand it over. Amanda had moved in 6 months earlier after losing her job. I didn't mind at first. I believed families should support each other. But slowly, she started taking control. First, she helped with bills. Then she asked to organize my online banking because tech wasn't my thing. I was grateful until that night. That's when I realized she had been checking my balance, tracking every transaction, and whispering to her father about poor financial decisions. I remember the exact smell of that night. The burnt garlic bread, the lemon cleaner on the counter, and the bitter taste of betrayal in my mouth. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled tightly and said, "Oh, I think I'm doing just fine with my money, sweetheart." But deep down, my chest was pounding. Something was wrong. The next morning, I logged into my account myself, something I hadn't done in months. I had to reset the password twice because it said the one I remembered was invalid. When I finally got in, I almost dropped my coffee. There was a $10,000 transfer pending to a new account I didn't recognize. I froze. Then I saw the name A. Parker. Her last name. I couldn't breathe for a moment. My hands were trembling so bad I had to sit down. I texted Mark. "Did you authorize a transfer from our savings?" He replied, "Amanda said you agreed. Something about investment returns." She showed me the plan. My heart sank. That night, I confronted her. "Why did you touch my account?" I asked quietly. She rolled her eyes. "You gave me permission, Linda. You literally said do what's best with the savings." I shook my head. "I said that about the grocery budget, Amanda." She leaned forward, smirking. "Same thing, isn't it? You wouldn't understand the difference anyway." For a split second, I saw her mother in her. The same arrogance, the same smile that once made me feel small when I first married Mark. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room, staring at the framed family photo, Mark in the middle, me beside him, and Amanda forced to smile in that red dress she hated. I thought about every year I worked overtime to buy this house, to build this life, how I'd put her through college, helped pay off her car loan, even defended her when her mother called her irresponsible. And this is how she thanked me. By calling me old and useless. By trying to take what I had earned. At 3 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg my husband to stand up for me. I was going to get my money back and make sure Amanda learned exactly who she was messing with. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. She thought I was weak because I was quiet. She was about to find out what silence can do when it finally speaks. The next morning, I acted like nothing happened. I made pancakes, brewed coffee, and even asked Amanda how she slept. She didn't notice the fake smile. People like her never do. Inside, I was burning. When Mark left for work, I called my bank. I explained everything to the lady on the phone. How my stepdaughter had access, how a transfer was pending. She froze for a moment, then said, "Mrs. Parker, I'm glad you called. We noticed the same transfer looked suspicious. We can cancel it immediately if you confirm it wasn't authorized." I exhaled for the first time in hours. "Cancel it," I said, "and lock the account." Then, she gave me advice that changed everything. "Ma'am, you should visit the branch in person. Bring your ID, proof of address, and request a fraud alert on all your accounts. It'll protect you from any further unauthorized access." I thanked her and got ready like it was a battlefield. Navy blazer, clean hair, calm face. When I walked into that bank, I wasn't stepmom Linda anymore. I was the woman who had spent decades being everyone's support system, nurse, wife, mother, and now for the first time, my own protector. I met with a banker named Sophie, who listened quietly as I told her everything. She didn't look shocked, probably heard stories like mine before, but her words still hit me. You'd be surprised how often this happens, especially when family's involved. You're not alone. She helped me open a new savings account under a new name, only mine, and set up a security code that even Mark wouldn't know. She also printed out the logs showing every time Amanda had accessed the online banking portal. I stared at that paper for a long time. It felt like proof of betrayal, printed in black and white. That evening, I came home early. Amanda was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up. "Hey, Linda," she said, "I need your ID for something real quick. It's for the investment paperwork I told Dad about." I smiled sweetly. "Sure, honey. Let me grab it." I walked into my room, locked the door, and sat down at my vanity. I could see myself in the mirror. Tired eyes, faint wrinkles, but something new behind them. Determination. I whispered to my reflection, "You are not going to be her victim." When I came out, I handed her a photocopy of my ID. She didn't notice the difference. She just said, "Thanks," and went back to her phone. That night, I quietly went through her old mail that she left in the kitchen drawer. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed to know who she really was dealing with. Bills. Overdraft notices. A final warning from a credit card company. Amanda was drowning in debt. That's when I realized the truth. She didn't want my savings for investments. She wanted them to save herself. Over the next few days, I kept playing the polite stepmother while documenting everything. Every text, every conversation, every login attempt I caught in my email alerts. Mark still didn't notice the tension. He was buried in work, or maybe just didn't want to choose sides. One night, I decided to test Amanda. I told her casually, I might be moving some of my savings into a CD account next week, higher interest rate. She blinked fast. "Oh, really? Which bank?" I shrugged. "Haven't decided yet." Her fingers fidgeted with her phone. I knew right then she'd try something. And she did. At 11:23 p.m., I got a notification. Suspicious login attempt blocked. Two-step verification required. She was in the next room. My heart was pounding, but I smiled. Let her try. Every attempt now was evidence. I quietly picked up my phone and recorded a short video of the notification, timestamp and all. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer, Rachel Grant, a friend of a friend who handled financial abuse cases. Rachel listened carefully and said, "Linda, what your stepdaughter is doing could qualify as financial fraud. You have enough documentation to make this serious. Let's get ahead of it before she escalates." I nodded. "I'm ready." That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully, knowing the game had changed. She thought she was playing with a naive woman, but I had just started playing smarter. I woke up early that Saturday morning with one goal, to take back control of my life. Rachel, my lawyer, had emailed me overnight with a short, calm message. "We'll proceed quietly. No confrontation yet. Let her make the next move." I liked her style. No drama, just precision. I made coffee and looked out the kitchen window. Amanda's car wasn't in the driveway. Perfect. I took that time to gather every document that mattered. My pay stubs, tax returns, savings printouts, even the tiny notebook where I tracked grocery expenses for years. This wasn't just paperwork. It was proof that I'd built everything myself. When Rachel called, her tone was steady but firm. "Linda, here's what we'll do. Freeze all shared accounts, separate your direct deposits, and revoke any financial power of attorney or joint access Mark might have given her. I'll prepare a statement in case she attempts identity theft." Identity theft. That phrase made my stomach drop. I'd spent my life believing the worst danger came from strangers, not someone sitting at my dinner table. Still, I followed Rachel's instructions to the letter. I went to the bank, changed all passwords, and even bought a small fireproof lockbox from Walmart for my new documents. When the cashier asked if it was for jewelry, I smiled and said, "Something more valuable, peace of mind." That evening, Amanda came home in her usual rush, smelling of perfume and cheap anxiety. She looked surprised to see me sitting at the kitchen table with a folder open. Hey, she said slowly. You're up early for once. I looked up. Just doing a little organizing. She smirked. Oh, need help with your online stuff again? I gave her a level stare. No, I'm good now. For the first time, she looked uneasy. Maybe it was the tone in my voice, calm, unshakable. She wasn't used to that. She poured herself a glass of wine, pretending not to care. Dad was saying maybe we could all look at that investment thing again. I think you overreacted. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. Maybe I said. We'll see. In reality, I had already moved every cent of my savings to a new account under a new ID, one Amanda could never touch. Later that night, I went into my bedroom, sat by the window, and pulled out my phone. I started scrolling through photos of the life I had built, the small apartment I'd first rented after nursing school, the used Honda I drove for 10 years, the scrapbook of bills I'd paid off one by one. I whispered to myself, you worked for this. You earned every dollar. No one gets to take it from you. That sentence hit hard. It wasn't just about money. It was about respect, something I had been quietly losing for years in this house. 2 days later, Rachel called again. She's made another move, she said. My chest tightened. What happened? She applied for a small personal loan online using your name and social security number. Luckily, it was flagged because the IP address didn't match yours. I went silent. She's desperate, Linda, Rachel continued. But that's good for us. Every action she takes now adds to your case. I sat there, gripping the edge of the table, letting it sink in. Amanda had crossed a legal line, and now the power had fully shifted. That night, I didn't hide behind politeness anymore. I called Mark into the living room and laid out every printout, bank statements, login alerts, Rachel's letter, everything. He stared at the papers, speechless. I said quietly, your daughter tried to take my savings. She used my name for a loan. I've been patient, but this stops today. He rubbed his temples, eyes wide. Linda, I didn't know. No, I cut him off. You didn't want to know. The silence between us was sharp. In that moment, I realized I didn't need him to defend me. I was already defending myself. That night before bed, I locked my documents in the box, turned off the light, and whispered to myself, tomorrow, she learns what real control looks like. Morning sunlight hit my face before I was ready. I hadn't slept much, part adrenaline, part anger still sitting heavy in my chest. Amanda was already in the kitchen, scrolling her phone, sipping my coffee like she owned the place. I stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching her. How easily she'd gotten comfortable here. How she could lie and steal, and still act like the world owed her something. Then I said calmly, Amanda, we need to talk. She looked up, eyebrows raised. What now? I took a deep breath. About my savings. About you trying to move money that doesn't belong to you. She blinked twice, then smirked. You're still on that? Linda, I already told you. It was a misunderstanding. I walked closer. A misunderstanding doesn't involve applying for a loan using my name. Her face changed. What? I tossed a printed copy of the loan application on the table. You used my social security number. Rachel, my lawyer, already contacted the bank's fraud department. She froze. The color drained from her face. Then she tried to recover. You can't prove that's me. Maybe it's some scammer online. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low but steady. It was your laptop. Your IP address. You're done lying. The silence that followed was loud. Even the ticking clock on the wall felt sharper. She crossed her arms, glaring. You think you're clever, don't you? No, I said softly. Just done being stupid. Mark walked in just then, sensing the tension. What's going on? He asked, looking between us. Amanda turned to him instantly. Dad, she's accusing me of stealing from her. She's losing it. I didn't look at her. I looked straight at him. Mark, I have proof. And if this continues, I'll be filing a report. He hesitated, torn. Linda, let's just all calm down. I laughed bitterly. I've been calm for 6 months while your daughter drained my peace of mind. That ends now. Amanda slammed her mug down. You're unbelievable. You think you're some kind of hero. I didn't flinch. No. Just a woman who's finally tired of being used. She stormed off toward her room shouting, "You'll regret this." Mark looked at me helplessly. "You didn't have to go that far." I turned to him slowly. "Yes, Mark, I did. Because you never would." After she slammed her bedroom door, I went outside to breathe. The air felt fresher, maybe because for the first time I wasn't pretending anymore. I sat on the porch steps, staring at the small patch of garden I had planted years ago. Those flowers survived every storm, every frost. So had I. That thought gave me strength. I took out my phone and texted Rachel. Confronted her. She denied it, of course. But she knows I'm not afraid anymore. Rachel replied, "Good. Keep records of everything. She may retaliate, but stay calm. The law's on your side." That evening, Amanda came out of her room dressed to go out. She looked at me coldly and said, "You think this is over? I can make your life miserable." I smiled faintly. "You already tried." She grabbed her purse and left. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the mirror in the hallway. I stared at my reflection, the same tired face, but now with a quiet power behind the eyes. I whispered, "You did good, Linda." Around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from my bank. Attempted login from unrecognized device blocked. She was still trying. But this time it wasn't fear I felt. It was validation. Every attempt she made was one more nail in her own coffin. I emailed the screenshot to Rachel, attached the timestamp, and went to bed. For the first time in months, I fell asleep smiling. Because this wasn't a fight anymore. It was justice, slow, steady, and mine. 2 days passed quietly. Too quietly. Amanda didn't come home. Her room stayed locked, her bed untouched, but her perfume still lingered in the hallway like a warning. Mark tried to act normal, but I could tell he was nervous. He avoided eye contact, shuffled papers at the table, pretended to check emails that didn't exist. On the third morning, the silence broke. A police car pulled into our driveway. I froze at the kitchen sink as 2 officers stepped out. One of them asked, "Are you Linda Parker?" My heart jumped, but I nodded. "Yes, I am." He held out a clipboard. "We received a complaint filed under your name, alleging harassment and verbal threats toward your stepdaughter, Amanda Parker." For a second, I couldn't even speak. I just stared. "What?" He read from the paper. "She claims you threatened her safety and tried to frame her for financial crimes." Mark looked shocked. "There must be a mistake." I interrupted. "No mistake. This is her retaliation." The officer's tone softened. "Ma'am, you're not in any legal trouble right now. We just need your statement." I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. "Officer, I have proof of everything she's done. Every login attempt, every unauthorized transaction, every message. My lawyer has it all." He nodded. "Then you'll be fine. Just stay civil if she contacts you." When they left, I sat at the table shaking. Anger, disbelief, sadness, all mixed together. Mark rubbed his forehead. "Linda, this has gone too far." I turned on him sharply. "No, Mark. She went too far. And now she's learning I won't be her victim." That afternoon, Rachel called. I told her what happened, and she wasn't surprised. "She's cornered," Rachel said. "When people like that feel exposed, they flip the narrative. Don't engage directly. Let her words destroy her credibility." I sighed. "You sound so calm about this." "That's because I've seen this play out before," she said gently. "Linda, she's underestimating you. Keep your composure. That's your power." I hung up feeling steadier. A few days later, Amanda finally came back, unannounced, loud as ever, slamming the door like she owned it. She stood in the living room with her arms crossed, fake confidence all over her face. "So," she began, "I talked to the police. They said I should record any more threats you make." I stood there silent. She wanted a fight. I wouldn't give her one. When she realized I wasn't reacting, her voice grew sharper. "You think you can ruin my life? You're pathetic, Linda. Everyone knows you're just jealous of me. That's why you're trying to make me look bad to Dad." Mark walked in mid-sentence. "Enough, Amanda," he said quietly. She glared at him. "Of course you're taking her side now. She's manipulated you too." That's when I saw it. the panic behind her eyes. Her plan wasn't working. I stayed calm and said, "Amanda, I've already reported your attempts to the bank and my lawyer. You can keep lying, but the truth always leaves a trail. And yours is digital." Her jaw clenched. "You'll regret this." I smiled faintly. "No, sweetheart. You will." She stormed off again, this time for good. 2 days later, Rachel emailed. "Linda, the bank confirmed she's under investigation for attempted identity fraud. The loan company also submitted her IP logs. Everything's aligning in your favor." I sat there in silence, reading it over and over. It didn't feel like victory yet, more like relief mixed with disbelief. For years, I'd swallowed disrespect quietly. I thought love meant endurance. But that day, I learned love without boundaries becomes permission for abuse. And I wasn't giving permission anymore. That evening, I found Amanda's key still hanging on the hook by the door. I took it off and put it in a drawer. It felt symbolic, a small act of reclaiming space that was mine again. When Mark came in, I said softly, "I changed the locks tomorrow. It's time we protect our home." He didn't argue. He just nodded. I should have listened sooner. I looked at him, not with anger, but finality. "You'll have time to think about that." Because I wasn't just protecting my bank account anymore. I was protecting my peace. After Amanda stormed out that final time, the house felt strangely quiet, too still, like the air after a heavy storm. But I didn't trust the calm. People like Amanda don't just disappear. They wait, watch, and circle back when they think you've let your guard down. Rachel called that morning. "Linda, we're in a good position now," she said. "But we need to secure everything, your identity, your finances, your home. You're not just defending yourself anymore. You're rebuilding your control." I took notes like a soldier following orders. Step 1. Place a credit freeze on all 3 bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. That meant Amanda couldn't open any new accounts in my name. Step 2. Close every shared utility bill and reopen them under my name only. Step 3. Update all passwords using random generated codes. No birthdays, no names, nothing she could guess. I spent the whole afternoon doing it. Laptop open, coffee refilled twice, every click feeling like a small victory. When I reached my online insurance portal, I noticed something strange. The beneficiary name had been changed from Mark Parker to Amanda Parker. I just sat there stunned. She had even thought about what would happen after I was gone. It was cruel, but it made my mission clearer than ever. This wasn't just about money. This was about erasing me from my own life. I called the insurance company, verified my identity, and reversed the change immediately. The representative was kind but firm. "Ma'am, we recommend you set a security phrase, something only you know. It will prevent future tampering." I smiled bitterly. "How about trust no one?" The lady chuckled softly, not realizing I meant every word. That evening, Rachel came over. She wanted to meet in person now that things were escalating legally. She was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp eyes and a calm presence. She spread her papers across my dining table like a chessboard. "Linda, I'm filing 2 things this week, a protective notice through your bank and a cease and desist through law enforcement. If Amanda tries to contact or access you again, she'll face criminal charges." I nodded, trying to absorb it all. Rachel studied me for a second. "You're handling this with remarkable composure. Most people break down at this point." I looked down at my hands, steady now, not shaking anymore. "I've spent half my life cleaning up other people's messes. This time, I'm cleaning my own." She smiled slightly. "That's the spirit I wish more clients had." After Rachel left, I sat alone in the living room. The TV flickered quietly, but my mind was miles away. A part of me felt guilty, not for protecting myself, but for realizing how easily Mark had let things spiral. He hadn't said much since the confrontation. He spent his evenings in silence, probably torn between fatherhood and guilt, but I couldn't carry his burden anymore. I had one goal left, to stand on my own 2 feet again. The next morning, I took out my old nursing license from the drawer. I hadn't worked since early 2020, after COVID and burnout forced me to stop. But now, the idea of working again didn't scare me. It felt empowering. I spent the day updating my resume, printing copies, and calling an old colleague who ran a small clinic downtown. Linda? Oh my God, it's been ages, she said. We actually need part-time help for patient coordination. When can you come in? My heart skipped. Tomorrow. For the first time in months, I had something new to wake up for, something that wasn't about survival, but rebirth. That night, I stood in front of the mirror again, one of Rachel's symbols of strength, as she called it. I touched the reflection of my face and whispered, "You're doing it. You're taking your life back." Behind me, the lamplight flickered softly. It was the same house, but it didn't feel like hers anymore. It finally felt like mine. I woke up the next morning before my alarm, nervous, excited, a little scared. I hadn't been to work in nearly 5 years, and now I was heading to an interview that felt like my first step back into the world. I wore my favorite navy blouse, simple, professional, and clean. It wasn't new, but it made me feel like the woman I used to be before my life became about defending myself. The clinic was small, just a few blocks from downtown. The waiting area smelled of disinfectant and coffee, a scent that brought back 1,000 memories from my nursing days. When I walked in, my old colleague Donna smiled warmly. "Linda Parker, I can't believe you're here in person." I laughed nervously. I needed a reason to get out of that house. She looked me up and down. "You look strong. I remember when you used to run circles around all of us." We talked for an hour, about patients, paperwork, and life after burnout. At the end, she said, "If you want the job, it's yours. We start Monday." Just like that, I was back. I walked out of that clinic feeling taller, lighter, like someone had handed me back a piece of my soul. When I got home, Mark was in the living room, scrolling through his phone. He looked up. "You seem happy." "I got a job," I said simply. His eyes widened. "That's great, Linda." "Yeah," I said, walking past him toward the kitchen. "It is." He hesitated before adding, "Amanda called me this morning." I froze. What did she want? She said she wants to apologize. Said she's made mistakes. I turned slowly. "And you believe her?" He sighed. "She's still my daughter." I looked him dead in the eye. "Then she can be your problem." I'm done being her target. He didn't argue. He just sat there deflated. For once, the guilt seemed to sink in. The next few days were peaceful. I focused on preparing for my new job, reorganizing my closet, packing lunches again, even buying a cheap planner to jot things down. Every task felt like therapy. Every small decision reminded me that I didn't need anyone's permission to rebuild. But Amanda wasn't done. On Thursday afternoon, I got an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "You think you've won?" My stomach tightened. I opened it carefully. "You ruined my life, Linda. I can't believe you'd stoop this low. You turned my dad against me. But don't worry, you'll pay. Everyone slips up eventually." I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Rachel instead. She called within the hour. "Linda, do not engage," she said firmly. "She's testing boundaries again. But the more she contacts you, the stronger our case gets." I nodded, though my hands were shaking. "I'm not scared of her anymore. Just tired." Rachel's voice softened. "That tiredness you feel? That's healing. You're doing better than you think." That night, I took one last symbolic step. I changed my phone number. It felt strange, like erasing a piece of the past, but necessary. I wrote down my new number in my planner and whispered, "Clean slate." Then I went outside and sat on the porch with a cup of tea. The air was cool, and for the first time, I wasn't waiting for drama to knock on my door. I was waiting for peace. On Sunday night, I laid out my work clothes for the next day. The lockbox was tucked safely under my bed, my accounts secured, my identity protected. I looked around my bedroom, the mirror, the papers, the quiet, and realized I'd built a kind of safety that didn't depend on anyone else. Amanda could threaten, scream, or vanish into her own chaos. It didn't matter anymore, because I had something she'd never understand. Control, not over others, but over myself. Monday came. My first day at the clinic. I drove there early, hands gripping the wheel tighter than I needed to. Not out of fear this time, but out of something else, purpose. It had been years since I'd felt that. Donna greeted me with a hug. You're exactly what this place needed, she said. A calm, no-nonsense woman who gets things done. Her words filled me with warmth. For the next few hours, I slipped right back into my old rhythm, organizing charts, helping with patient calls, managing schedules. By lunchtime, I was laughing with coworkers like I'd known them for years. It felt normal. And I hadn't felt normal in a long time. Around 2 p.m., I checked my phone during a break. 3 missed calls from Mark. Then a text. Amanda's here. She's saying she wants to talk. Please come home. My chest tightened. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I texted back. No. Handle it. I wasn't rushing home this time. Not running toward chaos. For once, they could both wait. When I did get home that evening, Mark was pacing the living room. He looked exhausted. She came crying, Linda. She said she's broke, scared, and doesn't know what to do. I couldn't just throw her out. I set my purse down. Where is she now? In the guest room. The same guest room she had turned into her little headquarters, the place she'd plotted against me. I took a deep breath, steadying the anger bubbling up. Mark, you need to understand something, I said quietly. You can forgive her if you want. But I will never let her near my finances, my documents, or my peace again. He nodded slowly. I get that. I don't think you do, I said, meeting his eyes. You always try to fix things by pretending they're not broken. That's why this happened in the first place. He didn't reply. Just sat down, defeated. An hour later, Amanda came out. Her face was blotchy from crying, her makeup smudged. For a moment, she looked like the little girl I used to help with homework, before life hardened her into this manipulative adult. She sniffed. Linda, I messed up. I just wanted to invest, to prove I could handle something. But it got out of control. I folded my arms. That's one way to describe fraud. Her eyes flicked up, pleading. Please. I didn't mean to hurt you. I stayed silent, watching her squirm. Finally, I said, You didn't just hurt me, Amanda. You betrayed every bit of trust one ever gave you. You lied, you stole, and then you tried to make me the villain. She started to cry harder. I know. I'm sorry. For a moment, I almost softened, but then I remembered the police, the bank alerts, the humiliation. So I said calmly, I accept your apology, but forgiveness doesn't mean access. You will not touch anything that belongs to me again. You will not use my name, my accounts, or this address for anything. She wiped her tears, whispering, I just wanted you to like me. That one hit harder than I expected. I sighed. Amanda, I wanted that too. But love doesn't mean control. You don't get to fix your mistakes by breaking someone else. She looked down, ashamed, then quietly went back to her room. Later that night, Mark approached me. You handled that better than I could have, he said. I looked at him tiredly. I've had practice. He nodded. She said she might move out tomorrow. Stay with a friend. Good, I said simply. I didn't hate her. I just didn't owe her another chance to destroy me. Before bed, I sat by the window again. The moonlight spilled across the floor, soft and silver, and I thought about how far I'd come, from fear to strategy, from silence to strength. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long time, I trusted myself to handle it. And that, I realized, was real freedom. Amanda left the next morning. No dramatic speech, no screaming match, just the sound of her suitcase rolling down the hallway and the front door closing behind her. I watched from the kitchen window as she got into an Uber and drove off. No tears. No relief. Just quiet. Mark didn't say much for the next few days. Maybe he was processing what had happened. Maybe he didn't know what to say. I didn't push him. I had spent enough of my life managing other people's emotions. Now I was managing my own. A week later, the final hearing for the fraud investigation came through. Rachel called me that morning. Linda, this is it, she said. They've confirmed the origin of the fraudulent loan attempt. It came from Amanda's device. She's being charged with attempted identity theft and unauthorized use of financial information. I felt my stomach twist, not from fear, but from the weight of closure. What happens next? I asked quietly. They'll likely offer her a plea deal since you've chosen not to press for jail time. Your cooperation has been noted. You'll also receive written confirmation clearing your name with all financial institutions. I let out a long breath. Thank you, Rachel. You did this, Linda, she said. You built the paper trail. You took control when most people freeze. You should be proud. When she hung up, I just sat there in silence for a while. The house was still, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. For the first time, the quiet didn't scare me. It comforted me. That afternoon, Mark came home early. He looked older. Maybe guilt ages a man faster than time ever could. He sat down across from me. The lawyer called me too. About Amanda. I nodded. He sighed. She's angry. Says you ruined her life. I gave a faint smile. She said that when she tried to steal mine. He didn't argue. He just looked down at his hands. Linda, I've been a coward. I kept thinking if I stayed neutral, no one would get hurt. But all it did was make things worse. I studied his face. I know you love her, Mark. And you should. But loving someone doesn't mean closing your eyes when they hurt others. He nodded, eyes watery. You're right. I softened my tone. I'm not asking you to pick sides anymore. I just need peace. I earned it. He reached across the table, hesitated, then said, You have it. I nodded, accepting the truce, not reconciliation, just understanding. A week later, I got the official letter from the fraud department. It stated in black and white that I was cleared, that Amanda Parker was the responsible party, and that my accounts were fully secured. I held that letter like a trophy, not of revenge, but of survival. That night, I made myself a small dinner, poured a glass of wine, and sat by the mirror in my room. The reflection looking back wasn't the same woman who once trembled over a lost password or cried over betrayal. This woman was calm, confident, and entirely in control. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my photo gallery, past the pictures of Amanda's birthday dinners, family holidays, fake smiles. I stopped at one old picture of me at the hospital, still in my scrubs, holding a newborn. My first night shift back in 1998. That woman had been strong too. She'd just forgotten for a while. I whispered, Welcome back. Then I deleted every photo that no longer served me. Every memory tied to manipulation, guilt, or silence. It wasn't about hate. It was about space. I was finally making room for me. Later, Rachel called one last time to close the case. Linda, you're officially free. It's over. I smiled into the phone. No, Rachel. It's just beginning. She laughed softly. You really mean that, don't you? I do, I said. For the first time in my life. When I hung up, I locked my documents, turned off the lights, and stood at the front door, that same door Amanda had slammed countless times. I turned the deadbolt, whispered, My house, my rules, and smiled. It's been 6 months since Amanda walked out of that house. 6 months since the investigation ended. The accounts were cleared, and the silence finally became peace. The house feels different now. Lighter. I rearranged the furniture, repainted the kitchen walls, and planted new flowers in the garden. White lilies, my mother's favorite. When I look at them, I think about how even something bruised can bloom again. I still work part-time at the clinic. Donna says I bring calm energy to the place, though I still laugh every time she says it. Calm didn't come easy. It was built, one small choice at a time. To protect, to let go, to move forward. And every paycheck I get, I deposit into my account. My name only. No shared access. No shared passwords. No apologies. Sometimes I still hear Amanda's voice in my head, the arrogance, the manipulation, the guilt trips. But now it doesn't sting. It's just a background noise. Mark and I are still together, though things aren't what they were. They're quieter, maybe too quiet, but we coexist peacefully. He tries to make amends, doing small things like cooking dinner or fixing the porch light, as if he knows words can't fix what silence once broke. We don't talk about Amanda much. The last I heard, she's working at a retail store in another city, staying with a friend. Rachel says she completed her probation, paid her fines, and that was that. Justice, not revenge. That's how Rachel framed it. And she was right. I didn't want to ruin Amanda. I wanted to reclaim my dignity. And I did. A few weeks ago, something unexpected happened. I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in Amanda's messy handwriting. I stared at it for hours before opening it. Inside was a short note. Linda, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to thank you for standing up to me. I was angry, selfish, and lost. You showed me what accountability looks like. I'm in therapy now, trying to fix the mess I made of myself. I hope someday when you think of me, it's not with hate but with pity, because I finally understand what I threw away. Amanda. I sat there a long time, reading it over and over. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. Just peace. Then I folded the letter neatly, placed it in the lockbox with my other documents, and whispered, "That chapter's closed." That evening, I went outside to water the garden. The sun was setting, that warm orange kind of light that makes everything look softer. I caught my reflection in the window and paused. There I was, the woman who once thought she'd lost everything. The woman who was humiliated at her own dinner table. The woman who was told she didn't understand her own money, her own worth, her own power. And now, I smiled at the reflection and said softly, "You outsmarted them all, didn't you?" The mirror didn't answer, but the silence felt like agreement. Later, I made a cup of tea and sat by the door, that same door that had been slammed, locked, opened, and finally reclaimed. This time, I didn't think about the past. I thought about everything ahead, my next shift at the clinic, my savings growing slowly, the life I was building on my own terms. I picked up my phone, opened a blank note, and wrote one sentence. It's never too late to start protecting yourself, or to start over. Then I looked into the camera, recording a short video for the small women's group I joined online, and said the same thing out loud. Sometimes life breaks you down so you can rebuild stronger. If you've ever been underestimated, lied to, or controlled, remember this. Your silence isn't weakness. It's power waiting for the right moment to speak. I smiled, stopped recording, and whispered the final line I wanted every woman to hear, the same one I'd lived by since that night Amanda tried to steal my savings. Never let anyone take what you've earned, not your money, not your peace, not your voice. I uploaded the video, closed the app, and leaned back in my chair. Outside, the wind was soft, and the lilies swayed gently. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was the author of my own story.